Hey folks, Quilly18 here, and welcome to a new Heroes of the Storm video starring Sergeant Hammer. So I've got the gameplay accelerated just a little bit because I'm going to do a post-game commentary here, and I just want things to flow a little bit faster and keep the videos manageable. So in this video I'm going to talk about Sergeant Hammer, who is one of my favorite heroes to play, and actually probably the one I'm the most effective with overall. She's actually really interesting and it's got some cool different options that stand out from the other heroes in the game. Also, I'm going to be taking some time to talk about the fact that when I mentioned in my intro video about Heroes of the Swarm that there are no items, people kind of freaked out. How could you have an interesting and diverse MOBA without items? Well, the answer is that the talent system really serves as a proxy to the item system, in a way that you might not necessarily realize, but if you really think about it, it comes out to that way. Every few levels in a MOBA, you get to pick a thing that affects your character. It makes your character tankier or more damage dealing or have more utility or do more splash damage versus single target damage or be better at killing minions versus killing heroes, and so on and so on and so on. And that's exactly what the talent system does. It just means that you don't have to worry about gold management or anything like that. And it really serves that diversity. So Sergeant Hammer is an interesting hero in that, well, first of all, this is the only hero in the game, as far as I can tell, that doesn't actually ride a horse. Sergeant Hammer isn't a tank. Sergeant Hammer does not get a horse. So instead, the Z key is bound to a rocket booster that gives you a very short burst of speed, which actually turns out to be a really good way to run away from things. The most notable thing about Sergeant Hammer is that her E ability puts her into siege mode, which increases her range by a certain amount. Let me get the stats exactly. Increases her attack range by 5, and also her sight range by 3. Now, what is interesting is that her attack range and sight range, well, her sight range, is a certain distance. Now, by default, you can see actually right here, if you look at the video, you can see that her sight extends slightly past her attack range, which is that blue ring here in siege mode. But I just grabbed an ability, I just grabbed a talent that increased my base range by 1. And at this point, my attack range is basically equal to my sight range. Well, there's quite a few more talents that I can take that further increase my attack range, but not my sight. In fact, if I grab one more of them, my attack range will exceed my actual sight range, which leads you to some really interesting possibilities in terms of this sort of standoff character that stands away from combat and tries to bombard someone from a distance, and you're trying to position yourself in relatively smart ways. But what's really cool about this is you can actually outrange these towers as well, so you can use Sergeant Hammer here to quickly knock down enemy defenses. And it seems to me that not only do I do well with her, but it seems that we do poorly if the other team has her. And I think it's because the players can't really, deal with this ability right now. They don't kind of recognize what's going on because the game is still very new. I'm not going to suggest that, she's overpowered or anything like that, but just that maybe people have a bit of a hard time to do things. Here I actually failed to use my attack boost, but I do quickly level up my first aid talent so that I can heal myself. And it's, again, another example of some flexibility. So again, you've got, with this character, you really have a few different ways to deal with her, because every character, of course, has 3 normal abilities, plus plus an ultimate ability, plus a passive. Well, not a passive, sorry. The final ability on the 5th side, the 5th one in the row, is usually a passive. Sometimes it's an active. And a lot of times when you pick talents, they will improve one of your abilities, and sometimes they will just give you basic bonuses to your basic attacks, your health, or different things like that. So you're really constantly having to choose whether you're making yourself tankier, more of an auto attack hero, or specializing one of your abilities. With Sergeant Hammer over here, again, I feel like she's got really great escape mechanisms with her rocket boost, but not only that, she's got her built-in concussive blast, which knocks people away. Well, you can take that to the next level if you want and increase your spider mines to also knock people back. And that gives you so much incredible standoff ability, especially in things like this where you're trying to keep control over an objective. You're constantly knocking people away from that objective. Now, on the flip side, what you can do, and what I actually like to do, instead of giving my mines knockback, and they also slow by default. Well, another ability you can take increases their slow, makes them slow twice as much and for twice as long. And I actually rather take the ability that gives me 5 spider mines instead of 3, because they do a lot of damage. At max level, they do 290 damage, which is a lot. And all 5 can trigger. They jump out of the ground and sort of rush towards the closest target, and they can all hit the same person, and that starts to do a pretty gargantuan amount of damage. Although at that same level, no, I'm wrong, not at the same level. At the level with the knockback ability, and also the level that gives you +2 enhanced basic attack range. So that affects both my normal mode and also my siege mode. which is pretty good. +2 range is pretty strong. Well, at the same level, I could take the Giant Killer ability, which allows me to deal bonus damage equal to 1.5% of a hero's maximum health. And that's really good against heroes like Diablo, because Diablo's passive ability to gain souls dramatically increases his maximum health. So in a game here against Diablo, that might have been a viable thing to do. But at the same time, I could take the ability to create a wall with my barricade, or my concussive blast. In addition to doing damage and knocking people back, it would leave a wall behind, which allows me to really prevent a melee hero from hurting me. And so you've got all these options to respond to what you're looking to do, what the map objectives are and how you might want to play that, what your team composition is, but also what your opposing team composition is. For example, if I were facing a team with a lot of melee heroes, getting the barricade ability up on my concussive blast would be really, really good. And then this is at the same level, or I could get the knockback on my spider mines, one way or another. That would all be a pretty good way to obliterate melee heroes. On the other hand, if I'm facing a lot of ranged people, then getting the increased basic attack range could be really, really valuable, because it'll be easy for me to consistently hit someone. And I quite like, at first level, I really like the ambush ability, which is what I've been using in this particular game here, where when I go into my siege mode, A, it cloaks me so I'm invisible, but B, my first basic attack, which breaks this cloak, will deal double damage. And I use it at the beginning of the video. I don't know if you want to rewind and watch that bit, but I use it to try to harass the person I'm laning with. I cloak and then hit them for double damage. And I do this with +5 bonus range, so I can usually outrange them while also doing that bonus damage. So it gives me a lot of really great lane control. The splash damage in siege mode is really good for clearing a wave of minions, and then I outrange the towers and blow them up as well. Of course, every hero's got awesome, crazy stuff, but I really like the total kit on this character. It actually really wouldn't surprise me if this character gets nerfed at some point, because I do feel like it's a really challenging set of things. But you know what? It might be the sort of thing that's better against noobs than it actually is against a real sort of experienced players. I should take a minute to talk about Sergeant Hammer's unique abilities here, or her ultimate abilities, I should rather say. The very first thing, so there's 2 options. Every, of course, hero's got 2 options for their ultimate, as far as I can tell. Now, her first option is a regular kind of ultimate, a long 80-second long cooldown blunt force gun. Basically fires a really, really good bullet, or big bullet, that travels across the map, hurting everything that it touches along the way. If you're used to playing League of Legends, this might sound like something like Ezreal's ability, for example. Ezreal's ultimate is going to be somewhat similar to that, and that's the one I was taking at first for a long time, but I found it very difficult to really snipe people from across the map. It's not a bad way to clear a wave, or mostly clear a wave. But like, I would try to shoot people in, in the shrines on the Dragonshire map from across the way. Didn't really agree with us. Now instead I pick her other ability, which is Napalm Strike, which is not your typical sort of unique ability, in that it has a cooldown that is 6 seconds only, and you can spam it quite often. You do, obviously it's sort of a normal range kind of spell. It calls down some damage from the sky, does some damage, and also burns a little over time, but it's really good for just applied continuous damage within a radius. It's been working out a lot better for me. I'm really not a fan of the blunt force gun as is, but maybe I'll figure out what to do with it a little bit more. It does have a high max damage. The blunt force gun caps out at over 1,000 points of damage, compared to the Napalm Strike, which is only 520. On the other hand, I mean, you can spam Napalm Strike a lot. So, and I think that appeals to me. So, and then you can level those up later when you get to the final rank is what, like 20 or something like that. Your final rank, you can improve the Napalm Strike. You can improve its range by 75% and its damage by 50%, which is quite a lot. Or if you're doing the blunt force gun, which is called the Orbital BFG, the blunt force gun's missile orbits the planet every 5 seconds. Only the last missile fired orbits. So you fire it, and it shoots and it hits everyone in the line, and then it keeps going and then wraps around the planet and keeps going that lane. So you could like permanently keep a lane cleared with a never-ending stream of bullets. I mean, obviously it takes us a little bit of time to go around the whole planet, but how crazy cool is that? On the other hand, at the very same level, you can pick up Fury of the Storm, which is another talent that actually several heroes can take, and it means that your basic attack bounces twice to nearby enemies for 50% damage, and talking about wave clear, that's pretty impressive. Usually with Sergeant Hammer, I don't pick that because I feel like she's already got some pretty good wave clear. because she's got splash damage in siege mode, and I really do like the advanced lava strike as quite a powerful ability. So anyway, hopefully, like, I've tried to convince you here that, well, there's no hope that I tried. Hopefully I successfully convinced you that the talent system really does provide a lot of variety. Maybe a little bit less on Sergeant Hammer, who's a really focused, long-range siege standoff kind of character, but even then, there's still quite a lot of variety in that how you could build her, similar to how you might pick and choose different items to build on certain characters. You know, do you pick something that increases your attack damage, your base damage, maybe gives you some of the utilities, because there's quite a few things like that, first aid and a few things like that that are activatable. So anyway, this is it for this video. See you guys next time. Bye-bye.